G'day viewers. So we're here to talk about Ukrainian weaponry, and no, I don't mean the ghost of Kiev's MiG-29, nor captured Russian T-72s, or even donated Australian Bushmasters. We are here to talk about the HF Armory Smallsword. So let's start looking at the blade. The blade is a musketeer style blade, or double wide épée. It's got a fairly standard sort of M6 épée style tang, not a particularly long one, but it makes it interchangeable with all the sort of other small sword bits and pieces that you can get, which is nice for mixing and matching. The blade is really nicely engineered. There is some subtle individual variation between pieces. We got, a batch of 6 of them, and there was one that was significantly lighter than the others. There was another one that was a little bit heavier than the others. So there is some individual variation there. The tips are rolled, which is a nice little touch. Now, personally, I'm still sticking a little rubber blunt on the end of that, but at least the rubber blunt will last longer than with a sort of standard little sort of bullet tip that you get on those. So the roll tip is kind of nice as well. So the blades are really, really good. The main thing about them that I think is fantastic is the flex. There isn't too much of it, okay? It is a nice stiff blade. There's enough flex there that's perfectly safe, but if I compare it to, say, this one, this is a Leon Paul blade. I remember this being quite expensive when I bought it, and honestly, it's a noodle, okay? It just wobbles around and bends like crazy, and the problem with that is there's a whole bunch of actions in small sword, beats and binds and whatnot, and if you try and do that with a soft blade, it just bends and nothing much really happens. So you want a nice stiff blade to make those sorts of blade actions. This is perfect. It's great. So full marks on the blade. The shell is just a simple disc. That's okay. There are plenty of historical small swords that just have a round disc rather than a sort of more typical figure 8. I might prefer the figure 8 because the little cutout underneath there allows you to trap your opponent's blade in some actions, but that's a really minor detail, and as I say, nothing ahistorical about round shells. The quillen assembly with the knuckle bow and the parter arms is excellent as well. In the engineering on all this stuff is great, really, really nice. But in particular, this is a good size. I can get a well-gloved hand in there, which is terrific. I find a lot of reproduction small swords, they make this too small, whereas the real ones are actually quite roomy. So in this case, the parter arms and the knuckle bow are absolutely excellent. The grip, which you can see there, is actually a little 3D printed thing covered in sort of plasticky, rubbery stuff. It's really nicely made. It is, however, as you can see, rather small. Now, those of us in the club with small hands have said it's absolutely fine. Some of the guys with larger hands have said they find this absolutely fine with the small grip because it stops them from gripping it too tightly. Me personally, I find, particularly when I've got a glove on, it's like there's nothing there for me to hold on to. So personally, I'm going to want a slightly thicker grip. Now, when it comes down to it, a grip is a stick with a hole in it. It'll take me 10 minutes in the shed to knock up a slightly thicker grip, or I could just wrap it in tennis grip until it's a little bit more bulbous for me. So that's a really minor issue. I wouldn't worry about that. The pommel assembly, and the whole thing, of course, just sort of unscrews, is just a simple sort of stick thing there. I presume the hole is there so you can tighten it, though, tightening by hand does not seem to be much of an issue. This is the only thing about the sword that I don't particularly like, and the reason is this: if I just get a real one out from the bag. So there's my genuine small sword. And as you can see, it's got quite a bulbous pommel. It's hollow. There's no weight to it, but it is there. And you can see, again, the grip is actually quite thick and quite rectangular. And this all helps with the grip, because what the sources I play with, we're told, is we want to extend our thumb along there and support the pommel with the palm of the hand. So I'm kind of pushing down with the thumb and pulling up with these three fingers to bring that pommel into the palm of the hand to make it a reasonably firm grip when I am point on line like so. When there isn't a pommel, as with this one, when I try and hold it in that way, it just feels a little unsatisfactory, I'm going to say. I want something a little bit thicker there that I can feel supported underneath the palm to make sure I'm holding it properly. So having a sort of a more bulbous pommel would be nice. That's a more difficult fix. I can't do that myself. I would have to go and get a pommel from somewhere. But that's a really minor detail. And honestly, if you're using entirely sort of a French guard type thing, it's not going to be an issue at all. So, you know, if the manufacturers are listening after the war, don't worry about this now, but after you've won the war, it might be nice to get a rounder pommel and maybe a thicker grip on this. But as it is, if you want a really affordable smallsword, it's hard to go past. These landed in Australia at 150 local dollars each, which is half the price of the next available smallsword trainer. So for equipping a whole bunch of people with really, really excellent smallswords, and as I say, the blade, which is the most important bit, is absolutely top notch. It's hard to go past these. They're great. They're really, really fantastically made. So before we sign off, let's see a little bit of a couple of these in action.
Beautiful.
Now, if you're worried about ordering things from the Ukraine, given, you know, the war and all I can do is share my personal experience. I've ordered 4 things from the Ukraine, including these small swords. 3 of them have arrived just fine, including the Arm Street Invasion t-shirt that I'm modelling there. The 4th thing I only ordered last week and it's on its way. So things might sort of sit at Kyiv airport for a couple of weeks before they get out, but they do seem to get out. And let's face it, having a few $100 of stuff go astray in the post for a while is a small price to pay if it helps fight tyranny in any tiny little way. So personally, I don't have any qualms. I'm going to be ordering some more of these in the very near future. And if it helps the Ukrainians out just a little bit, that's great as well. So thanks for watching.